did ping and it went off and you got caught.
Behind the cover, yes.
Dismembered, decapitated. It's probably because you're trying to hide something and make sure certain details don't come out.
Tend to Life with Elise.
Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise and this is Tend to Life. The case we're going to be discussing today is one that many of you guys have been asking me to cover, and it's the case of the two missing boys from Cal City, California, Orrin and Orson West. Orrin and Orson West are 3 and 4 years old, and they went missing just days before Christmas. Now, the reason that I haven't covered this case yet is because I have been collecting so much information, timelines, footage, you name it, I've been collecting it and going through all of it with a fine-tooth comb. I've put together a very detailed timeline of events, as well as what I have also found to be discrepancies between interviews with the parents and information that has been released through the public and some information not released from the public yet. So today we're going to go through everything that we know so far in that case, the updates, the timeline, the discrepancies. I'm going to share with you guys information that I have found out too, and would love to get your thoughts on that. And before we jump right into the case, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder. If you are a returning subscriber, first, thank you very much. And if you're brand new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn your notification bell to on so that you get notified of upcoming videos and updates within this case. Also, please don't forget to like this video and share it where you can so we can spread the word on this case. Now let's jump right in. Orson West is 3 years old and Orrin West is 4 years old. They are two boys who live in Cal City, California. Orson and Orrin were reported missing on Monday, December 21st, 2020. Two young boys were both adopted and lived with 4 other siblings. 2 of those siblings were also adopted, and 2 of those siblings were bio kids to the parents. Orson and Orrin are the youngest of the collection of siblings. The brothers disappeared on Monday, December 21st, around roughly 5:45 p.m., according to initial reports, which we will get there. They were reported missing by their adoptive parents from the backyard of their home in Cal City, which is about an hour outside of Bakersfield. The family first fostered the boys in 2018, then adopted them in 2019, and then the whole family moved to Cal City in September 2020. According to the parents, the boys were in the backyard playing with chalk while the mother was inside wrapping Christmas gifts and the dad was outside collecting firewood. After just a few moments, the father noticed that he had left the side gate open, noticed that the boys were no longer there, and that is when the search ensued. And I just want to let you know, I'm going to give you right now the case breakdown as far as what was reported. Then we're going to dive and dig a little deeper, and I'm going to talk to you about why there's certain things in this that either don't add up or that raise a red flag to me, such as these two boys playing with chalk in the backyard. And I'm going to get to that. The parents said after they searched the home and drove through the neighborhood searching is when they decided to call the police, and that was roughly at 5:45 p.m. The police arrive, a search ensues, and then this is where this case really begins to build, and in my opinion, it starts to unravel. When the search began, police not only were on the scene helping with the search, but canines were also brought in to aid with the search. The canines picked up the scent of the boys inside the house. However, they did not pick up any scent of the boys in the backyard. And again, this goes back to this whole chalk story, which we're going to talk about in just a minute here. The following day on Tuesday, the police bring the parents in for questioning and they serve a search warrant at the house and begin searching the property. It's unclear what was discovered inside that house, but we do see police officers leaving with evidence bags. In addition to the search, the family van was also towed and all of their tech devices were seized for investigation. The public has really tuned into this story and they are adamant in finding these young boys. Neighbors, neighboring cities, really so many people invested in this case. And pretty quickly on, there was public outrage because the parents were not aiding in the search efforts, which we know usually tends to be a red flag. The parents have said, and they are adamant, that the reason they have not helped out with the searches is because police had advised them not to and to stay at home. I also want to be clear that since this investigation began, the other 4 children have since been removed from that home. Wednesday night, just 2 days after Orrin and Orson West were reported missing, they begin to start digging up the backyard. Now, when I saw footage of this, it was very reminiscent of Lori and Chad Daybell. And if you're not familiar with that case, I'm going to link the playlist here to go take a look. I'm sure most people have heard of it, but they ended up discovering the remains of the children on the property. So when I saw this, and especially when I saw the types of holes that were being dug, it rang very similar to that case. The police chief has also said that he suspects that there's foul play involved. Now, I want to pause before I get into the details of what I've shared so far and certain things that stick out as red flags to me. And I want to jump to the interview with the parents, Trezell and Jaqueline West. And as we go through, I'm going to point out things that stand out to me that seem not only questionable, but possibly, actually, they do seem like red flags to me. I want you guys to let me know in the comments below what your initial reaction is. First, when the interview begins and the reporter says, "Tell us what happened," Orrin and Orson's adopted father, Trezell, takes a deep breath, almost as though he's about to just, okay, I'm going to take this deep breath and I'm going to tell my story. It just seems kind of weird. Something just was a little not sitting right with me on this.
So, tell us what happened the night the kids went missing.
Okay.
From our yard.
Okay. It was cold. I was gonna make a fire. There's a lot of wood in this area right here next to our house. I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. My wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts, so we thought it was a good idea that our youngest two would go outside and play with chalk on the back patio. Do not let them go on the dirt in the backyard. We keep them close. So I was playing with chalk, and I came in the house. I saw them there. I went in the house. I came back out. I didn't see them now. I immediately went back in, asked my wife, "Did you see the boys?" She said, "No, they should be outside playing with chalk." I said, "Well..."
It's like he's trying to tee up this big story that he tells, which he does, he takes that deep breath and he tees it up and goes into the full detailed story, talking about how it was cold and how he had to collect wood, rather than just saying, our boys went missing from the backyard, the gate was left open. You know, it just seems like it was rehearsed a little bit, and then he was like, okay, here we go, showtime. As the interview continues, there's certain things that are said that strike a chord with me as just kind of like, oh, I think he's fibbing, and I definitely think that they're not being honest, and they seem a little nervous in my opinion. And this is particularly driven by the body language. And if you are at all familiar with the Chris Watts case, you know what I'm talking about. In the now infamous Chris Watts interview, we see him on camera with his arms here kind of swaying side to side very nervously, and both parents in this interview are doing the same.
Okay. It was cold. I was gonna make a fire. There's a lot of wood in this area right here next to our house. I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. My wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts, so we thought it was...
In addition to swaying nervously, arms crossed, they're avoiding eye contact with the reporter and the camera at all costs. And not the entire time. Mostly when they're explaining the story and the timeline of events of what happened to the boys. There is no eye contact to be made, which we know one of the most telltale signs of deception is when you are not making eye contact. And rumor is, and I learned this actually in a loss prevention class once when I worked retail years ago, is that you look to the left. And we see that there is no eye contact being made, almost as though they're searching for the answers as they tell the story, or trying to mentally focus on what that story is supposed to be. Another piece of this interview that caught my attention is they never cry, not once. There is a very cold, stoic appearance coming from both of them, to where they are nervously fidgeting, but there's no real raw emotion. There's no tears. And what's more, they never say the boys' names. Not once. Now, I find that odd, because if I were giving an interview or speaking to somebody about my son who just went missing, or any family member or friend for that matter who went missing, I would be talking about them. I would say, Susie was outside playing in the backyard. She must have ran out, but let me describe her for you, this and that. But they weren't doing that, which makes me believe that there was no emotional attachment. There were no tears. There was no calling them by name. in my opinion, it was almost as though they were trying to disassociate from the boys.
They are going to be rambunctious, okay? They are going to be here in this area.
These kids, if they're watching, what is your message to them?
The message has always been, as soon as possible, call the California City Police Department. And please bring our babies home. And that's that.
As Trezell, the father, continues speaking, he says something else that's very interesting. He adamantly says they will be found here, meaning that neighborhood, which if they had just disappeared or wandered off or were abducted, how do you know that they would be here? How do you know that they wouldn't be somewhere else? And why would you trying to be funneling all of the search efforts to this particular area by giving that statement rather than casting a wider net? And in my opinion, what I believe he made this statement because he didn't want anybody looking anywhere else.
They are going to be here in this area. And I really would like to go in the houses, but it's not because I want to invade people's privacy. I just want to know if make sure. That's it.
We're going to talk about the boy's biological mother in a moment here, but before we jump into that piece of the case as well, I want to make mention of this other statement that the parents make during their interview. When the reporter says that the biological mother thinks that the parents were involved and that there was foul play, their response was, "We understand." There was no reassurance that they aren't involved. Instead, they were just like, "We understand why she would say that. We understand why she would think that," rather than, "I get it, but I swear I am just as upset as you. We're trying to find these boys. We love these boys. We're doing everything we possibly can." It was just, we understand why. They almost as though they knew that was coming, but still there was no reassurance attached to it, which I found very interesting.
Trezell and Jaqueline say they understand the frustration.
He thinks you guys did something.
And that's understandable.
What's your response to that?
That's understandable. I would think the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, that's exactly the point. And if we can find our babies, then guess what? That's no.
So let's talk about Orson and Orrin's biological mother for a minute. The boy's biological mother's name is Ryan Dean, and she put the boys up for adoption shortly after giving birth to them. Now, I haven't been able to confirm all of the details as to the adoption circumstances, but as I mentioned, she put both boys up for adoption shortly after they were born. The West family fostered the boys and then adopted them in 2019, and I believe that there was some sort of open communication still because the biological mother gives an interview. And this interview is what leads me to believe that not only were the doors and lines of communication still open, but that she was hoping to reunite with her two young boys. We don't know the circumstances as to why she chose to put the boys up for adoption, but we do know based on her statements that she was actively trying to work on herself to get the boys back. She immediately came down to help with the search and she was interviewed, and she says that she had to be there to help search for her babies. She also says that she believes something is very wrong and that the parents are involved in this somehow. I want to know what that relationship is like between all of the parents, because I'm going to explain here in a minute why there are a few comments from that interview that make me feel like maybe it started peaceful and maybe there was some hostility and anger towards the end, but I want to know what that dynamic was. In that interview, the biological mother, Ryan Dean, said that she wanted Orson and Orrin back and that she was working on herself, trying to get herself together so that she could get custody back of the boys. Now, what I find very interesting about that is if we go back to the interview with Trezell and his wife, Jaqueline, he says something that is kind of odd to me. When talking about his relationship with the kids, he seems very upset almost, and he says, "They are our children. We named them. They are ours."
We were entrusted with her children, and they came to us, and they became our children, and we named them. And they are our children, and so we want them back.
Now, that could just be a testament to how much they love the boys and how much they view them as their own children, possibly. But for me, something didn't sit right. And this was actually even before I saw the biological mother's interview, because it felt as though he was trying to say, "No, they're ours. She can't have him. We even named them. You didn't name them. They belong to us." Which then, of course, got the wheels turning in my mind thinking, okay, is it possible that If something sinister has happened to these boys, it was in an effort to make sure that they don't go back to the biological mother in a mindset of, well, if we can't have them, nobody can, and especially you can't. And that's just one tiny little theory, and we're going to continue to, of course, go into all of these details and all of the discrepancies, but I wanted to just point that out. So I'm going to go back to the day in question when the boys first were reported as missing, that Monday, December 21st. As we know, the parents said that the mother was inside wrapping Christmas gifts and the father was outside running in and out of the house bringing firewood in because it was cold. The boys were outside playing with chalk in the backyard, and that is when they disappeared. As I mentioned earlier, there are 4 other siblings in this house, 2 other adopted siblings and 2 biological children. They were not at the house when this took place. It is reported that they were at the grandmother's house on vacation or being babysat or whatever it may be.
The rest of the kids went with grandma.
With who?
They left. They went on vacation.
So they didn't?
No, because they're too young. We watched them. And it turns out that happened.
How did the...
My question is, why weren't the 2 young boys also at grandma's house? Why were only 4 of the 6 children there? And we're going to talk a little bit about what happened the Saturday before this Monday that might possibly outline that, but just stay with me on this. So I'm wondering why, out of all of these 6 children, 4 of them are at the grandmother's house and these 2 boys are continuing to stay with the parents. Is that something that happened often? Is 6 children just too many for the grandmother to watch? I'm trying to figure out what that dynamic was and why that decision was made and if it was something that was reoccurring. But something that's even more top of mind for me that I want information released on, and hopefully the body cam footage from the officers shows this and notes from the investigation show this. I want to know more about those chalk drawings, because if they were in the backyard for however long they were, several minutes, that's plenty of time for a child to make a huge slew of a mess with chalk. So I want to see what those chalk drawings looked like, first of all, to make sure that there was in fact chalk drawings. But then I would like to take it a step further. I want to know, did the chalk look as though it had been drawn by children or by adults? And with that, not only just what the details of the drawing would be, what about the pressure of the chalk? Because we know children don't have as heavy of a hand as adults. So is it fresh chalk, first of all, that was on the ground? Then taking it one step further, how deep was the chalk? Because if you've ever used chalk, if you push really hard, it starts to flake off, it gets really thick, or if you go light, it just kind of looks a little faded. So what was the impression and the pressure behind the chalk that was on the floor? Does it look that it could have been done by an adult because of a heavy hand, or did it appear very light in hand, like it could have been done from a child? And if it was light in hand and looked as though it could be done from a child, was the chalk fresh? Because we know there were no other children in that house. So could that chalk drawing have been a day old or 2 days old from when any of the children could have done it? How fresh was it, and how deep was the hand that drew the chalk on the ground? That is what I want to know. Now let's start going into some of the discrepancies and what we know so far. As Trezell is coming in and out of the house bringing firewood, he left the side gate open. He comes out, he realizes the boys are gone. He runs inside, asks his wife, "Are the boys in here with you?" She says no, and he says he jumps in his van and he immediately goes out and searches. And he says not only did he search the yard, but that he drove around through the neighborhood, checking every corner, checking all of the streets, yelling for them, and even talking to a neighbor saying, "Hey, I'm looking for my 2 boys." He then says it's starting to get dark, he didn't find them, so he decides to come back to the house and call the police to have them come out and help with the search.
So I was playing with chalk, and I came in the house, I saw them there. I went in the house, I came back out, I didn't see them now. I immediately went back in, asked my wife, "Did you see the boys?" She said, "No, they should be outside playing with chalk." I said, "Well, I didn't see them," so I came back outside and I started searching my backyard. I searched the whole thing. I realized that I left the gate open and I panicked, came inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife. Once that didn't pan out, I got in the van. I looked down the street, both directions. It was getting dark, getting cold, and I got in the van and I hit a bunch of corners. I went down this street, I turned my light on, I searched, I called their names. Talked to a gentleman on the street on the other side over there, he didn't see them. So then I came home and I told my wife we need to call the cops. It's getting dark and I need help. We gotta get going. So I called the cops. Cops came.
However, a neighbor released video footage from their house that contradicts this entirely. This video footage illustrates that Trezell and Jaqueline's story and their timeline and sequence of events does not match up. At approximately between 4:12 and 4:21 p.m., footage shows Trezell in that backyard by that gate, moving back and forth, probably collecting wood as he had mentioned. However, he was blocking the gate and really close to the gate, so there's no way that the children could have gotten out or snuck past him. But also on that footage, we don't see anybody else in the backyard or the front yard. Around 4:21, he goes back into the house and the lights go on and off a few times, assuming this is when they noticed the boys were missing. And at 4:32 p.m., the van is parked out front of the house. He jumps in through the passenger side and drives to go and search for these boys. He drives off at approximately 4:33 p.m. And remember, he tells everybody that in his interview and to police that he searched the entire neighborhood, hit so many different corners, searched the front yard, the backyard, and this is when that search takes place. However, we see him jump into the van, and he did not search anywhere in the front yard, which you would think if your boys just escaped through the side gate, you would of course look in the house, you would look in the backyard, you would come to the front yard, look everywhere before just jumping in your van and, checking out the neighborhood. But the footage shows that he doesn't check out the front yard. He goes directly into that van. So he's searching the neighborhood, hitting every corner, doing whatever he can do to find these boys, and he comes back to the house. Now, let me tell you the time in which he got back to the house. He left in his van at 4:33 p.m. He returned home at 4:39 p.m. 6 minutes he was out there searching for his two boys in that neighborhood. Hardly the same situation that he was trying to say earlier where he was hitting all the corners, driving through every street. You spent 6 minutes looking for your two young boys? And remember, he says that he had also spoken with a man as he was doing this drive and this search, which that conversation has yet to be verified. So he returns home now at 4:40 and gets out of the van, and he stands at a tree in front of his house waiting for the police to arrive. Here's what I find interesting. He has, in his report and in his interviews, he says that he searched that whole neighborhood, comes home, tells his wife to call the police, and that's when the police arrive, all of this stuff. Well, when he pulls up at 4:39, gets out of his van at 4:40 and stands by that tree, he doesn't go back in the house to ask his wife, have you found the boys? Are they here? Did you find them? It doesn't show any conversation happening. And it doesn't show her ever coming out of the house once. Not to search for the boys in the backyard or the front yard while he's even driving. There is no footage of her stepping out of that house. And remember, in his interview, he says that when he got back, he told his wife to call the police. But he goes directly to that tree. He doesn't go into the house, and he stands at that tree for 13 minutes. More than double the amount of time that he spent searching for the boys. Now, I understand if he wanted to wait for the police to arrive and he didn't want to miss them, so he's like, okay, I need to just park it here. I can't go off. I need to wait for them. But hello, your wife is also inside. She could wait for the police while you continue canvassing the neighborhood. Why are you just sitting there by the tree not searching? And even if you don't want to be driving and searching while you're waiting for the police, you could certainly be searching the front yard, backyard some more, which you're not doing. You're just standing by the tree for 13 minutes. So this footage starts to paint an entirely different picture. We know that nobody else was caught on footage in the backyard, the front yard. We don't see the boys on that footage anywhere. We also see Trezell hop in his van and go search for the whole 6 minutes for his kids. We don't see Jaqueline leave the house to go the front yard, the backyard, anywhere to search for the boys during this entire time, which, first of all, also, wouldn't you think that when he first ran in the house and said, hey, are the boys with you? I can't find them. And she says, no, I thought they were with you playing with chalk outside, that she wouldn't run out of the house looking for her children? And then we have Trezell returning from his 6-minute search and not going back in the house to ask his wife if she found the boys. Why would that be? Because he knew she wasn't going to find the boys? Police then arrive at 4:52, and Trezell hops back in his van to go search with the police officers. Well, I'm glad the search is now important for you, but why were you waiting 13 minutes to do anything, even searching your yard or the neighbor's yards? It makes absolutely zero sense to me. Another critical piece of information that has surfaced since all of this reporting and interviews and this outrage from the public, neighbors have not reported ever seeing the children at that house since they moved there in September of 2020. That is extremely alarming. And I get it, where there's a pandemic, we're staying inside, but that is extremely alarming that for 4 months, not a single neighbor has ever seen those boys. If we rewind a couple of days to Saturday, December 19th, there's footage that shows Trezell getting in that van with his family with 4 kids, not 6, and they apparently went to Bakersfield to do Christmas shopping. If you're all going Christmas shopping or whatever you're planning to do in Bakersfield, why are only 4 children getting in the van, not 6? You certainly wouldn't leave a 3 and 4-year-old behind to fend for themselves, would you? Could it be that on that Saturday, they loaded up the van with their 4 children, 2 adopted, 2 biological, and that's when they dropped them off at the grandmother's house? And then Sunday was going to be whatever they were going to do on Sunday with 0 kids in the house, or 2 kids possibly still in the house. And then Monday comes, and that is when they report the boys as missing. The kids are conveniently away. They've been away for a couple days. There's something with that timeline that doesn't quite fit. The timing to me with all of this also stuck out because remember, they reported them missing on the 21st of December, just a couple of days before Christmas. My initial thought was, okay, could that be because they wanted as few eyes on them as possible because it's the holiday season, then New Year's. Hopefully, if we report this happening at this time, it'll kind of just fly under the radar and it won't get a ton of press, which clearly isn't the case. Could that have possibly been the strategy? Or was it because the holidays were coming up and they were going to have to explain why Orson and Orrin were not at the family gatherings? This entire case has taken the media by storm, and there are so many people who are just absolutely outraged. They're chanting in front of the West's home, saying, "Where are the children? Where are the boys?" And as we're getting all of these pieces of information and footage and things like that, it just is not looking good. It has now been 3 weeks since these boys were reported missing. And I want to be clear with that. Not since they've last been seen, because we don't know when they were last seen, because neighbors haven't seen them. We don't know what the children have said, if they have been interviewed by police. We don't know when they were last seen. So really, this could have been something that unfolded months earlier, and now is when loose ends are being tied up. And also remember, when the police came to search the property and executed that search warrant, the canines picked up a scent that was inside the house but not outside, showing as though the boys were never in fact in the backyard. And could the scent inside be that the boys ever were in that house? Sure. Or could it be furniture, articles, old articles of their clothing, anything? We don't know what that real timeline of the boys being in that house and being a part of that move to Cal City is. The good news about this is nobody is staying silent. People are talking. These massive search aids are taking place. People are going in their spare time, their free time, to search nearby lakes and nearby wooded areas, all of these things, trying to help locate these boys. And it's my opinion that nobody is going to stop until answers are found. Hell, I myself live 2 hours away from Bakersfield and have contemplated if I should just drive up and do this damn thing myself, which I actually might do. I talked to my husband about it this morning, so stay tuned. If you have any information, any tiny tip at all, whether it is a sighting of the boys, something you heard, something you saw months ago, any information about the parents, please share it. Cal City PD can be reached at 760-373-8606. And the Bakersfield Police Department can be reached at 661-327-7111. Please share any information you have. Based on what we know, with the version of events that Orrin and Orson's parents have shared, and what we are now learning from this released footage and some of the other discrepancies, some of the information from the bio mom, what do you believe happened? Share what you think in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. I will continue to keep you guys updated on this case. As soon as updates are out there, I will let you know. And I am praying that these 2 young boys are found and they are healthy and they are safe. And if not, I hope that whoever is responsible is held accountable. Thanks for tuning into this case with me today, guys. Please don't forget to hit that like button and share this where you can, anywhere, social, with friends, wherever you can, so we can get the word out and hopefully bring these boys home safely. Thank you again. Until the next case, stay safe. Bye.